Hello, I'm Benson and welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you some kitchen knives. I got three different sets here. Two of them are made by a Chinese company and one of them made locally in England. Sets like this, Homgeek, and this one here is 8 pieces and is £39.99. This one here, which actually this one is the one that I had for the last 2 or 3 years now, and this is my kind of a day-to-day cooking. Yeah, so this one is Rockingham Forge and £67.99, and then has 5 pieces. This one is self-sharpening, so we got a little hinge of 2 pieces of metal there. Every time you slide it in and out, it's supposed to keep the edge sharp. And we also have this one here by Cangshan, that's Chinese pronunciation, but in English I think it's called Cangshan. This one here is £170, budget, medium, and kind of expensive. Now I'm not a knife expert and I'm not really an expert cook or anything like that. I just want to show you guys what my experience is and what your money will get you. This one is actually sponsored and sent to me by Amazon Vine. I'm still going to be impartial because the Vine program sent out products that I can test the experience. I need to write a review, but good or bad, 1 star, 5 star, Amazon or Cangshan have no idea, so it doesn't really matter. So all the link to buy is in the video description. If you do buy from the Amazon link that I put in there, I do get a bit of kickback, and by actually viewing my video and I get like ad revenue, and that's how I fund this channel. So in advance, thank you very much for watching. There is a couple of simple tests that I'm going to perform in this video, which will be cutting pieces of paper. I think that's quite a famous test actually. And I've got some tomatoes and some vegetables I'm going to chop up as well. So that will give you an idea of what your money can buy. But at the same time, I want to go through just a couple of minutes of the care that we need to put towards our kitchen knives. So in the inner box it shows you obviously the picture of what you get. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces here. This company only been around since 2015, but apparently they win a lot of awards for making knives. Alright, so what we have out of the box is the wooden block, leaflets to tell you how to clean them, store them, and this one here is German steel. And they have done some special ice treatment to harden the material. So at £170, I do expect it to last a long time. So this company do make a whole range of knife with different design. The one that I got here has some design feature which I haven't seen in other knives before. Now this one here comes with 1 piece of forged steel, and the handle is hollow. So that's the design for this particular knife. It's got nice details on here, and you see here German steel. It feels good in the hand, it's quite nicely balanced, so it's not like top heavy or end heavy. So 1 piece of forged steel. It looks beautiful though. Now here, I guess it depends on preference, your personal preference. It's like you do have a groove in the middle here, and I think it will take some time for me to get used to this knife. But so far, I do quite like the design. I personally love a knife block. Is because if I'm going to get a set of knives, I don't want it to just lay it in the drawer. The worst thing that can happen is every time you pull out the drawer, you put things in the drawer, the knife going to hit each other, or either use that tools, you're going to blunt the knife very quickly. I never put my knife set in the dishwasher. No matter if the status say that it is kind of withstand the temperature, I just don't, because you worn out the knife a lot quicker. So this one costs £39.99, so it's very, very reasonable, and it comes with 5 pieces at once. So this one is made by a Chinese company. I don't know much about them, but I do know that they do make a full range of different knives as well. Now I have been sent other knife sets before. Even the one which is slightly more expensive than this one, they are just not worthy of making it a video, because like the tang, which is I haven't mentioned yet, so obviously this one is forged one piece. The other thing that I always look for in a good knife is that it should be one piece of metal from the tip to the end. So this is what we call a tang, and the handle wraps around it. So some of the cheaper knives have a tang of like that much, which doesn't give you the strength, because every time you use it a lot, eventually the metal part just come out from the handle. So those definitely something to avoid. But at $39.99, I thought this is quite reasonable. Again, it comes with a nice wooden block. And this one actually on the box, it does say don't hand clean and don't use dishwashers on this particular product. Now with the company name, Cangshan, I understand because I think it's a place in China or that mountain range. But here is Homgeek. I'm not sure what brand that stands for, Homgeek, G-E-K. I personally don't really fond of that name, but everyone to their own. So this one, the fifth piece, is actually not a knife then. So this is actually a kind of a sharpening device. This itself doesn't really sharp your knife, but what it does is it helps to make a sharp edge. So most of the cutting is done by the very fine edge of the knife, so this one actually helps to pair it, kind of keep it sharp. So it comes with a pair of scissors and double up as a bottle opener. So scissors, sharpening, short knife, bread knife, okay, so let's have a look at the main knife. So you can see the difference. So in lengthwise, it's about the same. This one's slightly shorter, and it feels slightly lighter as well. Still feels quite good in the hand, but this one is front heavy. So definitely tilting to the front. Now there's no right or wrong or good or bad, it's just how you prefer the knife. I like my knife perfectly balanced, so this here set will be better for me, but for you it might be different. You might like the weight in the front. The only thing different is like if you are chopping a lot, then if it is front heavy, it does help you to gain the strength or momentum to chop, but it gets really tiring after a while. Home cooking, if you're just cooking like a meal or two, it shouldn't make any difference at all. Okay, so again, this piece of metal is all one piece. The tang go all the way to the edge of the knife, and you've got three velvet point which clamped together, and it feels a bit rough on the edges. This is for me coming from a perfectionist point of view. So this is the metal is sticking up from the handle. Now this thing costs $39.99. Nevertheless, I mean, if it cuts okay, I think this is actually quite good value, because actually even at this set £170, if you're serious about your knife, even one single knife can cost £170. So I got some recycled old magazine here, which I'm going to use as my first test. So can it slice through paper? Quite a simple task, but actually it's not as easy as people might think. And I hate to use like a white piece of A4 paper. Every time I see someone do a knife test, I just get a bit angry. Why cut a good piece of paper when you have all this junk mail through the door? Yeah, so they're sharp. Okay, so now let's test out the slightly more expensive one here, Cangshan knives, and see if it passed the paper cutting test. Well, I can feel the immediate difference. This one is like slicing through butter. From the really lower edge middle and it cuts through paper like butter. Now let's try the shorter version of the same brand, Cangshan knives, and see what. Just equally sharp. And you know it's sharp because you can actually cut shape out of paper. You can actually turn. You see that? So as expected, 170 pounds, I do expect a set of knife which is sharp right out of the block. And perfectly usable from, without having to sharpen it or do anything to it. Because this is self-sharpening, I haven't touched them really in terms of maintenance. So again, let's go with the one I use the most. So you can hear it every time you pull the knife out. Kind of sharpen the edge for you. So this one by Rockingham Sharp. And because I look after my knife, so it still looks really good. Tip is still intact. It still should be quite sharp to edge. Quite well finished compared to this one here. So like I say, this one here, you can see it, yeah. Like I say, this one here, you probably need some sanding instead of getting the metal to match the kind of a wood handle, so it doesn't have that catchy feeling. Doesn't really matter to me, but I mean, if you're looking for an expensive knife set, I would expect this one to be level with the wood grain. But that's just minor. It doesn't affect the functionality of the knife at all. Self-sharpening knife, yeah? I had it for about 2-3 years now. And you can tell, it still cuts, but definitely not as sharp because you can see the paper edge is a bit torn. So the paper is not really a clean cut, it's kind of a jagged edge, so definitely this edge here is not as sharp as the new ones that is in the box. So we have done the simple paper test, kind of this one comes first, this one comes second, but they are very, very close in terms of the race. My 2-year-old knife, not so good, definitely need improving, but if you stay until the end of the video, I will show you how to sharpen your knife with some simple method. Doesn't really have to need a special machine. Even just with a plate, you can sharpen your knife to a certain standard. So better than nothing. So we got 3 knives here and 3 tomatoes. Okay, I'm biased. Okay, I go with the more expensive one first. Yeah. The weight of the knife already pressed through the tomato. I have to be really careful at this stage because I don't want to chop my fingers, but if I just do a very thin slice on the top here, I think the test is like, if it is sharp enough, just the friction of the tomato on your chopping board is enough to hold the tomato in place to cut a really, really thin slice. Now, like I say, I'm not really a good cook, so I don't even know if I'm holding a knife correctly, but if the knife is doing all the job for me, look. Okay, now move on to the budget knife. So this one here, like 1/3 of the price of the expensive knife, but does it do the same? Okay, again, it cuts clean. It cuts really nicely. Here I'm not using force at all. All I'm doing is I'm letting the knife do all the work here. Literally just let it glide through the tomato. Tomato. I mean, if you ask me, I will say I do feel the difference between this one here and the Cangshan. I know the price will always make a difference, but it's good. It's nice to actually use a very sharp knife to cut things. It's very satisfying. Okay, now my daily kitchen knife. It does slide through, but I do feel that I need to press down on the tomato a lot more. Where the other two knives, the gravity, like the weight itself, is pushing it down, but this one here definitely needs a bit more effort. But once the blade goes through the first layer of the first cut, it really glides through just like the other two as well. So just now, this cut here, I can feel it. It doesn't want to go through. Whereas the other knife, even the first pass is enough to slide through the tomato skin. This one you really have to force it through, like you have to push it forward and backward. So all three can do pass the tomato test, which is a good thing. But if you want to rate it again, it will be the expensive one obviously first, then the budget, and then my 3 years old knife. But they all perform well. So this one here by Homgeek is a bit crude around the edges. Ergonomics wise, it's kind of a bit of hard plastic here, so it doesn't really feel that good, but it does do its job as a scissors. This is a pair of scissors, right? Does it cut? Of course it cuts because it's sharp at the moment. But in terms of like movement, it's quite tight, tolerance-wise. So overall, I will rate it okay, acceptable for the price. Okay, with the Cangshan scissors, is really substantial weight to it, so it's a very heavy piece of scissors. You've got slightly larger side for your 3 fingers and the thumb. They do have contour shape to the metal here, so already I feel a bit better. So even without the plastic, I do feel that this is a lot more ergonomic wise, comfortable, and it's adjustable. So here you can actually adjust the tightness of the metal. So over time, if you get loose, you can always tighten them, which is quite good. It's polished metal, so it looks really, really shiny at the moment. And if you want to clean it, you can actually take it apart. Now, I love the design of this kind of scissors. Actually, I wouldn't go back to a normal pair of scissors after I have scissors like this. It's so much better in terms of like, you know, hygiene and cleaning. And I hate food and grease get into the joints. So for example, this one here, you have no options to take it apart. So sometimes you find it quite hard to clean in the gap. So now, yes, I'm an OCD person, so you know, I would like to make sure everything is squeaking clean, but this one here, it makes it a lot easier to do so. And it's adjustable, which is a bonus. The self-sharpening knife, they are really, really good knives at 60 something pound, but you can see that it kind of failed the paper cutting test. This one here from Homgeek, very reasonable price for £40 or £39. Very good value for money. Out of the box is really sharp, and I do like the design and make of this product. So you've got one piece of forged metal, and the tang is all the way to the handle. A bit of a disappointing for me is the finishing, so the metal is sticking up on the wood. But to be honest with you, if you are not bothered, it is a very good knife. It's front heavy, so it depends on your chopping style. It might not be comfortable for you, but for me, this is kind of perfectly fine. Now for the more expensive Cangshan knife, this is the cream of the crop. So if you can afford it, I will say get it. Not necessarily this model, because I'm not a big fan of this design here. But if you have a kitchen which is quite unique, then I think this will be a quite good addition in terms of a styling point of view. And it feels really good in the hand, quite well balanced, and it really cuts through things like butter. Okay, so I did mention that I'm going to talk about maintenance of your kitchen knife. So I've got a couple of devices here. Start with the really simple one. All you need is some water and a ceramic plate turned upside down. Now I learned this trick from my parents. Basically, some of the ceramic plates, they have a very rough edges on the bottom of the plate. So if you do want to sharpen your knife, add a bit of water to the edge of the knife, just wet it, and then all you need to do is just gently push it forward and backwards at a very light angle. And what it does is it will help to realign the edge. And you know it's working because you know it's working when it actually leaves behind kind of a dust particles. Those are the little bits of metal which is coming off. Now this is not a professional way to do this, and I wouldn't do it on a very expensive kind of knife. For example, if my knife cost me like £200 per piece, I would get some like professional equipment. But if this is your normal home kitchen knives, and after a few years, you might want to just sharpen it by doing this. Now, if you want to go a bit more fancy, then you can get one of these stones. Now, this one here have two sides. You've got a 400 and a 1500. 400 is what you start with. It really helps to shape the knife. And then you go with the lower grit, which is smoother surface, and that helps to sharpen your knife a lot more. So what you do is, again, go with the 400, and all you need to do is on the edge, do it at the angle. Now I am not a professional, so like I say, this is how I would do it, and my knife is not that expensive, so even if I messed up, it's not the end of the world. It does take time and patience though, so stay with it. And always be careful, don't cut yourself. So this will be a step up from using the bottom of your plate. Again, it's slightly sharpened. If you have the time, you do it for like a lot longer than I do, but this is just a quick guide to show you how to look after your knife, especially for those people who have never sharpened your knife and you're complaining that your knife is not good enough. Now finally, this little torture device, I got it from eBay, and it's a very clever design because now you no longer move your knife, you actually move the grinding stone, and it's set at an angle, so you can have it a much steeper angle by like moving it to the top or moving it down for a shallower kind of an angle. Now I usually go with the shallow angle. And what you do is you adjust the stopper until the knife edge is over the edge. Doesn't matter which side, left or right. Now the good thing about this one is that it's a set angle, so you can't really go beyond that. So this is really fixed. And the other thing is you can't really cut yourself because there is stopper there, so you can't go further than the thing, so you won't cut yourself. You still have to be careful though. And add some water from time to time. A lot better. Instead of cutting, still, I think I can still spend another 5-10 minutes on it, but definitely still need to do a bit more there, but the front is really sharp now. The back is still need sharpening though. Thank you very much for watching my video, and I hope that you find my information useful. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe to my channel and to help me grow. My conclusion will be that yes, £170, is it worth it? To me, I like it. Not everyone will be liking the design of this, like this slot here. Definitely some kind of a bragging right in the pub that you have a £170 set of knives. Does it make you a better cook? I don't know. I don't think so. If you're going to use it to cut pizza, you know, and KFC and stuff like that, it's not going to do anything for you in terms of bandwidth wise. This one here at £40, I find it very good value for money because you get a full set of knives here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is knives that I haven't tested. For example, the bread knife, I haven't really spent any time on it. It looks good, but I'm not sure how well it is to cut bread. It does come with a sharpening thing, so you don't have to use the bottom of your plate. And Gordon Ramsay have a very good tutorial on how to use one of these. The knife itself, it feels good, front heavy, so might not suit everyone. It's made from one piece of metal, so the tang is long and strong. I won't put it in the dishwasher even though it's only 40 quid because I want my knife to last very, very long. In terms of cutting, they all cut. Even my 2 years old even my 2 years old knife can cut well. It's just how you maintain it. So this one is self-sharpening to the extent that, you know, after 2 years of not doing much, basically all we do is, like, you know, taking it out, in and out of this knife block. Effectively, this is actually sharpening to an extent. So as long as you look after your knife will cut really well without problem. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.